Hello and welcome to my podcast. My name is Michelle Green, founder of Kingdom Builders Credit Repair, Kingdom Builders Community Development Corporation, and Kingdom Builders Business University. Welcome and let's talk. So today I was thinking about the process of when my mom first passed. And I was thinking about how many people really know what the process looks like. Well, first of all, I want to say that I was very shocked in how quickly everything went each day. Finding out that she passed away on a Friday afternoon and being requested to come immediately almost 3 hours away from my home to identify her body, which took me forever, it seems like, trying to get in touch with my husband and trying to, just absorb the information, calling the life insurance company, which, by the way, everyone doesn't have life insurance. So I do encourage you guys to purchase life insurance. And actually, I'm a producer. So if you are interested in services that I can also provide. But anywho, I called the life insurance company shortly after I got the news from my grandmother, which also, by the way, was a devastating conversation because I had previously called my grandmother and asked her to check on my mom since I couldn't get in touch with her, and I normally speak with her every morning. And we had gotten into the afternoon, probably around 1:30, when I spoke with my grandmother to ask her to go to her house since they live on the same property and just walk up there or drive up there and see, how she was doing and why she wasn't answering her phone. And so as my grandmother went up there and she couldn't get in touch with her, when I called her back, she said that she couldn't get in touch with her. But when I called back, they were in the middle of opening the door with a crowbar to get into her house. And because my mom had the deadbolt locks on, she was very protective of her place. So my grandmother said that there was a hard time getting inside of her place. And so they had gotten in and I could hear all of this background noise. I could hear my grandmother talking and walking. She was speaking to the sheriff. She was speaking to the emergency room people, ER. They were there because they weren't sure of exactly what was going on. My uncle was there, and he was also sort of kind of leading the way because he knew, where she might be, either in her bedroom, in the bathroom, in the living room, or the kitchen. He was kind of leading the way. And so I could hear all of these people talking. And I'm in another town a few hours away, and I could hear all of these people talking in the background, and it just really disturbed me because it was like watching a movie with your ears. And I was thinking okay, I can hear people walking. I can hear people talking. I can hear my grandmother, my uncle saying, okay, you check to the left and we'll check on the right side to see if she's there. And then the horror of finding her. I could hear my grandmother being totally upset, but she was more so angry than anything. She was angry, and it was expressed in the conversation with me. And this is not to degrade or bash my grandmother at all because I love her greatly. But it was just the experience is what I'm trying to share with someone to help all of us to understand that, hey, each person has their own experience with someone that they love who passes away. So we get to the part where my grandmother is saying she's back here. And then I'm asking my grandmother, like, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Is the emergency room going to take her to the hospital? Is she on the floor? What's happening? And she gets really upset and tells me she's dead. She's gone. She's gone, Michelle. She's gone. And I can just continuously hear that in my ears, even to this day. It hurt, but it was more so a shocking experience of hearing my grandmother speak to me in that manner, but even more so to know that my mother was not alive anymore. So the process was very strange afterwards, because I got to calling the life insurance company. I spoke with my husband, and he came home from work, and I told my children and everybody that was close to me, and we were prepared to go down the road, but we didn't make it in time to identify her body. So the only time that I saw my mom was at the actual wake, what we call the wake, where they prepare for family and friends to come and visit, and seeing her for the first time after her passing. That's right. I didn't even have the opportunity to identify her, because I never had been through an experience where I was totally responsible. So listen, guys, the process is very, very hard, but it goes so quickly. That was on a Friday. I came down Friday night. We stayed in her place overnight, and I cried myself to sleep and back awake all night long on Friday. I laid in her bed, and it was just devastating. Because by the time we got there and everything, the experience of walking in my grandmother's house to get my mother's purse, to get her keys, to open her door to her house, and then to go in the house and she's not there. And it's like, okay, well, where's the person? Where are they? Like, they were just here. So I know I was just at her house. So where is she? Where is she? Just the horror of the experience of walking in the door and thinking, like, I know she's going to come out of one of these rooms. So why isn't she coming out? And you don't want to touch anything. You don't want to go through anything per se, because everything is still left the way she left it. And so you're looking around at whatever you can gather in your mind to figure out exactly what that process was like before she passed away. Was she getting ready to drink? Was she trying to cook something? Was she trying to eat something? Was she trying to just walk around? What was on her mind before she left here? That process, it goes so quickly. So we get up the next day and we have to go and talk to the funeral director. We have to go and make, arrangements for her funeral, because she was a member of a church. And when you're a member of a church, I'm not sure if everyone is aware. If you're a tither, if you're someone who gives contributions to the church organization, then you have, or you should have, a spot for burial that's free of charge, or that you don't have to put a lot of money into, let's just say. So my mom was able to stay at the same church for mostly all of her life. And by doing so, of course, Her burial was free. I just needed to pay for the funeral director, which is a whole nother situation, a whole nother cost. And I'm sharing this because, like I said, I don't know if we all are completely aware of the process of someone passing, identifying the body with the coroner, making funeral arrangements, having a life insurance policy that you need to call, that you can quickly identify where it is, who it's with, how much coverage you have on the person. And even that process was so weird to me because they kept saying, this is a claim that is filed, just like it is in insurance policy when you have an accident. In a car insurance policy, when you have an accident, it's like they establish that you've had a claim before because you had an accident before. So now in life insurance, they establish that there is a claim established in that the person is no longer here. And then there is the process of making sure that you have the death certificate, and you have to decide quickly, where are you going to bury the person? Well, for me, the process was a little difficult because my mom's last request was to be buried at either of two places. So it was either or, and I had to make the decision for her. And I'm telling you guys, like, it goes so quickly. In making a decision of where you're going to lay your mom to rest, and talking to the people at one location, and then talking to the people at the other location, and trying to decipher, okay, well, which place do you choose? I remember being in the funeral home and just bawling my eyes out. I had to be excused and go to the restroom just so that I could ask God to help me to make this choice, because I didn't know what to do. And He led me to making the best choice. But then there's also, in the process of burying someone, you have to go through this thing where you have to plan a program for their funeral. If you're going to have a funeral, that is. If you're not cremating the person, if you aren't making some other type of arrangement, maybe renting a casket and then getting ready to cremate them afterwards. If your situation is like mine, you really have to decide. Like, what are you going to do with this individual who has passed away? And these decisions have to be made in a matter of days, not weeks, not months, but days, practically hours. My mother passed on a Thursday night, and I know that because her spirit was felt the night before by me. Friday, we found her, and the following Friday, she was buried. So you can only imagine the chaoticness of just trying to grieve, just trying to get your head to wrap around that your mother is gone or that your loved one is no longer here. And then in the process, you got to plan a program. You got to buy the programs, or either the funeral home can provide the programs for you. You have to decide on a burial location. You have to decide, are you going to go ahead and get someone to actually put a tombstone around the tombstone and the cemented parts or rocks or whatever you're going to do for the person's gravesite. You have to decide on who's going to do what. You got to decide on Whether you're going to have flowers or people going to bring flowers, who's going to speak, who's going to do the eulogy. You have to decide on who's going to sing in the choir. You have to decide on what songs to play. You have to decide on what colors to use. You have to decide, just as if you were planning a baby shower or if you were planning a wedding or a birthday party. You have to do the same things for a funeral. So it just blew my mind, guys. It really blew my mind in how quickly I had to make all of these decisions. I had to decide on what my mother was going to have on in her casket. I had to decide on underclothes. I had to decide on what her hair would look like. I had to decide on if I was going to put shoes on her feet. Now, normally that's not something, according to what I've heard most morticians say, but they don't usually put shoes on. But the fact that this was even something that I had to think about. What was her makeup gonna look like? What was her, what was everything gonna be? Were they gonna play music at the wake while we're allowing family and friends to come in? Are there gonna be books to sign so that we can see who came in to visit? Are there going to be pretty much any and everything that you could possibly consider in a moment where you need to grieve and wrap your head around the person being gone? There's so much to consider. And I believe that no two people's process of funeral arrangements or their burial or cremation are exactly alike. But I'm here to say, guys, that when someone passes away, it's a whole industry that understands that this process is quick and it's pricey. It's very pricey. It's not inexpensive. It is pricey. I remember speaking to one of the places where my mom suggested that she would be buried. And they were like, it's going to be an extra $6,000 for this and that. And so I was like, why? For some cement? Like, it was just so baffling to me. The pricing, the process, and realizing that this is a whole industry, an industry that is very well paid. But do people really consider all of these things? Do we even consider the fact that we're going to leave here one day for real? Or are we just walking around each day just believing that, oh, well, we're planning for tomorrow. We're planning for the days after tomorrow. We're planning for pretty much a long life where we're always going to be here, and we're concerned about so many things that honestly won't matter in the end at all. It won't matter, guys, when we're gone. What does matter is the people who are left behind to bury us, to lay us to rest, to cremate us. What is their process going to be like? Do we really want to leave our loved ones with all of these questions to answer at a time when they're mourning our death? Do we really want to not have insurance, life insurance? Do we not want to leave them anything with any options? Are we really that blinded to the truth that we won't even make a consideration for those who we have right now and love dearly and that love us? those who we honor, those who we respect, are we really that selfish that we wouldn't even have a life insurance policy? That we wouldn't try to search and learn about the industry and what we have to take care of? Like, I didn't even know that you have to pay for a marker, which is a established wording that states this is where the person is buried if you're actually going to bury someone. I didn't understand why there would make a difference in a vault. And some of you may not still know what I'm talking about. And that's the kind of questions that I want us to think about here. The process of someone passing away is quick, expensive, and it's hurtful. It's so painful, let alone the relationships that we expect people to do and be something for us in that moment that they aren't. That's another conversation that we'll have one day. But guys, I want you to think about, what's your process? If you go before the others, or if the others go before you, what will your process look like in death? Will it be chaotic? Will people be fighting? Will people not have time to even mourn or grieve? Will they have to bury you quickly, or will they have to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks because there's no money? What is your process? What is it that we really need to be thinking about that's going to matter long term? I don't want anyone to have to go through the things that I went through. I'm not saying that it was like the worst thing of my entire life, but guys, it was the worst thing of my entire life. I've never had such an experience that was so devastating in my entire life. Especially when you're the person who's responsible. So please consider what your process will be like when you go. And your loved ones. Don't wait. Do what you need to do today. So when it does happen, whether you go first or they go first, you weren't living in oblivion. You weren't in la la land along the way. You made things count. You made life matter. And you are prepared. Thank you.